Great. Thanks so much, Bill. Good afternoon, everyone, and thank you so much for your time and joining us. I'd also like to offer my thanks in allowing us a little time to do this in the afternoon instead of this morning. It's just really important for us to prioritize meeting with the team and getting things settled here at Washington State University, and then be in a better position to visit with everybody this afternoon and hopefully be able to answer everyone's questions as thoroughly and openly as possible. I would like to say, a lot of what we're experiencing right now feels a lot like kind of the new world of college athletics and football. And I think it's easy to get sucked into all of the changes and everything that we've had happen in the last, we'll just say week or two, on top of, the last year or two. But I have just been reminded time and time again in meeting with our current players, and coaches that are still here and hearing from so many of our former players and former coaches. It just reminds me what an amazing place Washington State University is. And while change sometimes can be frustrating or difficult or create uncertainty, I'm a strong believer that change brings about the opportunity for new beginnings and to really decide and make a plan as to where things go forward. And I think our team has had a tremendous mindset and attitude from this perspective, and so do I. A change has brought opportunity for Jake Dickert at another institution, but that leaves us an amazing opportunity for change here at Washington State University going forward. And so I continue to just remind everybody that the future is bright and change, brings about opportunity, and we're really excited about the position we're in right now, the opportunity we have before us, and a tremendous bowl game to participate in next week to cap off a season that has been a really great one, and that, to be honest, our players deserve the chance to close off. And so that's where my focus is right now, in addition to finding the next head coach for Washington State football. Obviously, that search has begun immediately. I'm sure there'll be questions about that, but just rest assured that things are moving along. But at the same time, right now, we're prioritizing our team, and I believe rightfully so, because they've earned that right and they deserve it from us. And happy to take questions.
All right, we'll start with Greg Woods. Go ahead, Greg. Greg, we're having some audio problems, so we'll come back to you. Jamie Vinnick, go ahead.
Hi, Ed. Excuse me. Thanks for doing this. Just right off the bat, was there a chance did you guys have a chance to give a counter offer to Jake, or did he just accept that first offer?
We've had a lot of ongoing conversations throughout the season, as you would expect, just talking about, the future here and, visiting with both Jake and his representation relative to his contract. And I think, to be honest, I think Jake felt good about the place we would have been in going forward, but I think it was more about the opportunity that he had that he chose to take, as opposed to, kind of what was here. So it really wasn't a situation where there was a counteroffer or any uncertainty as to our position here, because my philosophy has always been to be pretty open and honest and transparent about just where things are at. And so I think Jake had a good sense of, where Washington State University stood relative to his future here, and, wanting to continue to build a partnership. But at some point, people reach those professional crossroads where they feel like it's maybe not so much about the opportunity they're leaving, but the one they have the opportunity to go to.
All right, next up, Dave Bowling. Go ahead, Dave.
Can you hear me? Can
Go
you
ahead.
hear me? Hello? You can
Yeah.
hear me.
Yes.
Okay, thank you. You mentioned this being one of the realities of contemporary college athletics. It hurts people, though. You develop a relationship, fans, all that they went through to try to keep people. Would you have anything you could suggest to fans on how to deal with this sort of thing? The loss.
Yeah, no, I agree. I mean, I feel it, to be honest. I mean, I've, been a Coug for almost 24 years, and the way things are now versus what they were like when I first got here, you weren't wondering if your team was coming back, or you weren't wondering about the timing of all of the transitions. Certainly coaches, may leave, but I think that our situation probably highlights the need for there to be some changes relative to the timing. You know, I feel for these players and the guys that have put so much into this team to feel like, you know, what just happened, you know, this last week or two. And I think it's not so much about, you know, what we're able to do at any school, not just Washington State, but just being at peace with knowing that, you know, you make your best effort to do what you can to provide the best situation. But at the end of the day, people are going to make decisions that, as hard as it is, you can't take personally. At some point, it's not about Washington State University. It's about what's important for each individual student athlete or coach, and what they choose to do and what they, you know, choose to see as their future. So I think it becomes to be honest, a sad place if we stop trying and believing because we might get hurt. Because I feel it. I mean, I do. I feel the hurt. I know a lot of our fans, I know a lot of our players, our staff, our community feel that hurt. But at the end of the day, we can only do so much and be responsible for what we can be responsible for and continue to do that. And at the end of the day, you know, understand people are going to make decisions that we can't take personally, you know, because at the end of the day, if we take it too personally, then we just stop having those relationships, believing and trying. And that's unacceptable to me.
Next up, Sam Taylor. Go ahead, Sam.
And as you were talking about, obviously, you know the realities, 20 players to the transfer portal, a lot of the coaching staff gone. Is this just the new reality for WSU, or what is your vision for what WSU can be, and how do you plan to forge a future for WSU in this new college landscape?
Yeah, I mean, I guess I would offer up that it's not just Washington State University. I mean, we're seeing this at a lot of institutions and ebbs and flows. I mean, a lot of schools lost a ton of players in the portal last year, and we were fortunate that we didn't. This year, you know, we've got a good number in the portal, but, you know, maybe the school last year that did doesn't this year. So I think it's everywhere. It's not Washington State University. I think many programs are going through this. And so what's important to me going forward is to really keep my eyes on what is best for Washington State University and making it the best place for the right person to be, you know, the place that we're the right fit for. And Washington State has always had that niche. I mean, you know, we've always recruited players that, you know, maybe see themselves in, you know, a smaller community versus a larger city, or, you know, that has, you know, a priority on world-class student athlete experience and not just the wins and losses or whatever it might be. So I think we've always kind of forged our path, and we need to know that that's continuing to be important going forward. But I don't think it's only Washington State University. I think it's the reality everywhere. And I think it's a lot like we've talked about with conference realignment, is in a lot of cases, it's just a matter of when people are going to go through this, not if. And in some cases, Washington State, you know, gets to be the pioneers in some of this.
Next up, Kyle Bonagera. Kyle, go ahead.
Yeah, I think I'm unmuted now. Can you hear me now, Ian?
I can, Kyle. Hi.
Yeah, great. Yeah, given the start of the season, it always figured that, you know, Jake was going to be, you know, could be a candidate other places, and kind of given that kind of obvious dynamic to everyone, how much did you have to start thinking about the eventuality of Jake, you know, the possibility, I guess, of him leaving before it became a reality? And then how much did that process allow you to be better suited to kind of move fast here, with the portal where it is, and all of those other factors?
Sure. I mean, I think it's, you know, as we've talked about, it's always something you have to be mindful of. That's, you know, definitely not new, not only this season, not just this year. I think that, you know, in athletic administrative positions and in my role now as athletic director, I mean, you're always thinking about the, you know, possibility that, you know, coaches could leave, and for a variety of reasons, whether it be another opportunity, whether it be things aren't working out. So I think it's a fine balance, quite frankly, of being, you know, mindful of, you know, the situation you're currently in and not getting too far ahead of yourself as far as, you know, replacements, but also, you know, certainly being prepared and knowing the candidates that are out there. And again, I think it's always an opportunity to determine, you know, what's the best fit going forward, you know, knowing what we know now. I mean, certainly things are very different just nationally and college football than when Jake Dickert was hired here. And so looking at that and looking forward, I think it's imperative. You can't ever be caught, without a plan. And I think it's going to be very important that we evaluate the need for speed, but also to be thorough and mindful of candidates that, are attractive to us that may or may not still be, coaching for their institutions. So yeah, so I would say prepared, always aware of the possibility, but certainly, not acting like Jake was out the door before he actually submitted a resignation.
Greg Wood, let's try it again. Go ahead.
Okay, and can you hear me now?
I can, Greg. Hi.
Okay, beautiful. I'm on the road to Seattle, so we're
Okay.
we're kind of playing it tricky. I'm curious, Marshall, they lost almost 30 players to the portal and had to opt out of their bowl game. You guys are at 22 now, obviously a lot of coaching vacancies, obviously with Jake. One, have you guys had any conversations about potentially pulling out of the Holiday Bowl, and would there be a point where you guys would consider that at all?
No, no to that question. We are not pulling out. We are very committed to playing in the DirecTV Holiday Bowl. We've been in ongoing conversations with the executive director and their administrative team, reassuring them of that. I can't speak to what the situation was at Marshall because I don't know enough about the specifics. So I don't want my comments to be construed as in any way second guessing their decision or their choice. But at the end of the day, we stood before a room full of motivated football student athletes who can't wait to get on the field against Syracuse and represent Washington State University and to finish what they started and to send those seniors off, with the bowl game that they deserve. I mean, the Holiday Bowl is one of the best bowl games in the country. It's one that Washington State, obviously has a long tradition of playing in, and we're extremely committed to that. And there's been, right before I jumped on the webinar, and if I was a minute or two late, I apologize, but just, talking with some current student athletes again of just saying, we've got this, like, we're excited. We want to do this. We have coaches that are still here that are committed and people that really are wanting to finish off the season. And that means finishing off the season with a bowl game in San Diego. And we're 100% in.
Next up, Andrew Quinn. Go ahead, Andrew.
Good afternoon, Ann. Thanks for doing this. I just wanted to know, this all seems to have happened very quickly. Can you kind of take us into when Jake first let you know about this offer and when things kind of came together? And could you also kind of take us inside what was the reaction from his team to hearing this news this morning?
Yeah, I mean, I guess if you don't mind, I'd prefer to keep my comments to, just kind of my interactions and not speak for the team. I mean, certainly I was in the room when he told the team, and I think these are always tough. With every change, there's going to be a wide variety of emotions. But speaking directly, Jake and I talked about this opportunity that he was offered at 7:45 this morning. So that was the first time that I spoke with Jake. In all fairness, he did try to catch me via phone maybe an hour earlier. But this morning is the first time that I talked directly with Jake about this opportunity, or that he spoke with me directly about the opportunity.
All right, next up, Austin Getz. Go ahead, Austin.
Hi, Ann. I think a reason that there's so much kind of feelings of despair right now in the fan base is that Jake presented himself as somebody who cared a lot about the university, kind of wanted to see it long-term kind of return to, the prominence on the national stage that it once was. Do you think that somebody like that taking another opportunity maybe hurts the image a little bit? And how do you combat that?
Oh, I will admit I'm probably biased, but I don't think it does. I don't think it does hurt people's perception of the opportunity or their thoughts. I mean, at the end of the day, I don't know that Jake could foresee the Wake Forest job opening or foreseeing that might be a better fit, for him going forward, or for whatever reason he chose to take that job. But I think we've got a tremendous fan base. We've got a tremendous community here. We've got a great group of guys that are committed to playing for Washington State University. And I don't think it does. I think that, we have so many amazing things on the horizon with the Taylor Sports Complex and the Champion Center, a brand new football locker room. I mean, I know there's been a lot swirling relative to support and different things, but we've had ongoing conversations, with the Board of Regents, who are very supportive of everything going on at Washington State University, including in athletics. And I just think it would cause me to have to speculate why Jake chose to leave. And to be honest, I don't know that that's fair for me to do, but I don't think it causes any sort of despair, because I think if all of the outpouring of interest that we've gotten from tremendous candidates already in the last couple hours are any indication, like, people are excited this job is open and they're excited for the opportunity to lead Washington State football.
Next up, Jack Wallace. Go ahead, Jack.
Hello. Thank you again for hosting all this. I was just curious, in your opinion, and what you see out of what really makes a Coug, what do you think is the number one most important factor when you're looking for someone to lead this program next?
Oh, boy. That's a lot to try to sum up what it is to be a Cougar, what's important. It's, I think it's someone, to be honest, that is someone who has heart, and someone who is kind of wired into what's a priority for them and in their lives and with their community and with their team. I mean, I think if you look at a lot of common threads with our head coaches, you've got highly competitive, driven people that place a priority on the relationships and not just something that's transactional. With the new world of college athletics, we talk about transactional versus relationship-based, situations a lot. And I think Washington State University is always going to be a place that's relationship-based, because it's a special place, and we're not about being transactional, and we're not about, just the latest shiny object. And I think somebody that, is that values that, and that values something more than just what's seen on the surface, but actually the soul of who we are, like, that's the person. That's the person we want. Those are the people that have been at Washington State that have been so successful, whether it be student athletes, faculty, staff, students, whomever it might be, and to be honest, people that don't shy away from things that are difficult and tough. This is not for the faint of heart, but so it has to be something that people believe in, are willing to invest in, and that doesn't scare them. And so I think, somebody that has those qualities, and obviously in this particular case is a heck of a football coach, we've got our person.
All right, next,
Thank you.
Jason Puckett. Go ahead, Jason.
And you said, I'm here. And you said you found out at 7:45 from Jake that he was leaving to take the Wake Forest job?
Yes, from Jake directly, yes.
From Jake directly.
Inklings prior
Right.
to that, but Jake and I were able to connect this morning at 7:45.
And no chance to offer a counter. Do you in a way feel betrayed, and the university and the athletic department betrayed by Jake?
I think at the end of the day, Jake Dickert was our football coach until he took an opportunity somewhere else. And we have a lot to be, I think, appreciative of a lot of work that was done. But I wouldn't say betrayed at the end of the day. I mean, because I think when Jake had made up his mind, it would almost be more of an insult to try to pretend that he hadn't, if that makes sense, So I think that I don't, although I think it's unfortunate timing relative to the bowl game and, finishing off a season and really, adding another piece to a lot of emotions that this team is feeling right now. At the end of the day, I think, if you take too personally or look at it as anything other than, at that point it is a transaction, then, I think it gets too draining and difficult. So I don't feel it as a betrayal. I'm excited for Jake if he's excited for this opportunity, and I'm excited for us.
Okay, next up, Doug Nadwernick. Go ahead, Doug.
And you referenced your 24 years of the Cougar program. There are a lot of old timers like me who have been around long enough that it's a much different system. Do you worry that the apathy of folks who are tired of the changes that are going on in the program are not going to give to your program at a time when you really need them for the Cougar Collective and all that sort of thing? Are you worried that this is going to hurt your fundraising?
I'm not. In fact, what we've seen is just the opposite, that Cougs are realizing we've never needed them more than now, and really stepping up and being there, whether it be through financial support or, ticket sales, or just the number of just like hang in there kind of emails and texts from a lot of, great fans and supporters, and again, former coaches, former players. I think tells me that although sometimes, some days are hard to be a Coug. Like everybody out there who's a Coug will recognize that, I think. But that to me is what makes it so special, is that it's not for everybody. And I think at the end of the day, it has been just the opposite of what we've seen, is that at the end of the day, we can only control what we control. And if we, get sucked into apathy of, this is not what it used to be, or this is too hard, or this is too tough, then it means that we're ready to give up on Washington State being a Coug, and that to me is not an option.
As a reminder, if you have a question for Ann, please raise your hand and we'll call on you. Jamie Vinnick, go ahead.
And how much do you think some of the budget woes that, kind of going on with the Pac-12 shift and everything, how much do you think that maybe played a role in Jake's departure?
I honestly don't know, so I would hate to venture a guess. I will say that, again, as I alluded to earlier, Jake and I met on a really regular basis relative to a lot of, programmatic needs or things that we could do to help support Washington State football and Washington State athletics. And, I think he did feel supported. I mean, I obviously we're under, some constraints and parameters, that we have to work within, but, we've done everything we can to prioritize the things that were a priority to Washington State football and to Coach Dickert. And so, whether financial woes played into it, not knowing what the finances are at the new institution, I don't know if I could say. I would say I know that he felt good about the direction of the support, and some things we were able to, kind of revisit over the last, few months that were important to him. I think he felt supported, in our conversations for sure. But I don't know, honestly, if that, again, played into a fact of him understanding there were some things within our control and some things not. And, whether those tipped the scales on him feeling like a new opportunity was a good one, I couldn't say.
Next question, Sam Taylor. Go ahead, Sam.
And we saw our, your Palouse neighbors find a coach within 4 days of their opening. Do you have an idea of the timeline for finding a new coach, and then just what is that process of finding a new coach going to look like?
Yeah, that's, always the magic question. And I will say I'm a firm believer that it's better to get the hire done right than to get it done quick or quickly. So we are, mindful of all of the timeline with, the semester start in January, with the transfer portal, the uncertainty, of the team, and certainly, fans wanting to know what will happen and what the future will be. But I am not going to venture a guess, because I don't want it to become, oh gosh, it hasn't happened yet. She said 14 days and, here we are. I think we have to be mindful of really great candidates still competing and playing, coaching, and where that plays into it. So, we will use a search firm to help vet through candidates. We're still working on identifying that group to make sure, again, that that's a good fit and the right one, but just to help us, really with time and energy where we need it to be versus, the whole process of a search. So I'm going to say it's going to be as quickly as we think we can do it to do right. But beyond that, I would hate to venture a guess.
Greg Woods, go ahead, Greg.
And what seems to be the mood just like around the department, the football team? And how do you kind of, reassure everybody that, this
I'm so sorry, Greg, you cut out at the end. I heard around the department, how do you reassure?
Yeah, I'm just curious kind of like what the mood seems to be around the department, and how do you kind of reassure people that, like, this guy is not falling and things are going to be okay?
The mood is good. I mean, honestly, that's, again, this is the reality of college athletics generally. I mean, it certainly isn't the first head football coach that, has moved on at Washington State. And, I think people understand it's more about, I'd say it's more about the, the overall waters versus any particular waves, if that makes sense. And so I think that, you know, I think people feel good. I mean, people are excited about a lot of really great things happening at Washington State. I think people, are frustrated with some of the realities of college athletics that are no different here than they are other places. But that's, they'd be feeling that no matter where they worked, to be honest, in the country. So I think things are good. The team is fired up. I mean, the team is not in any sort of a hole, lamenting. I think they are focused on the Holiday Bowl. They're focused on, representing Washington State. They're in a good place. I think that, again, as we kind of alluded to earlier, if we choose to, wallow and lament, where we're at, then it seems like kind of a downer. If we, choose to embrace it as an opportunity to move forward and get better, then, I think the mindset is everything. Mindset is everything, in my opinion. And, I don't want to make it seem like, oh, people aren't, aware of some of the challenges, but I also think people aren't, frightened of them or running away from them. So it's people are good. I mean, we've had a great fall. We're having a great winter in a lot of our programs. People are about ready to either go to San Diego or spend some time with family and friends for the holidays. We've got a new year coming. Things are good.
Next up, Austin Getz. Go ahead, Austin.
And we've heard from multiple people around college football, including Jake himself, that he thinks that some of the issues more regarding the transfer portal and all those kind of things could be fixed with some guardrails in place. Would you be in favor of moving the transfer portal window to after the bowl season to try and maybe prevent some of the mass exodus we've seen, not only at your program, but around the country?
I really would be in favor of, an evaluation of moving the window because I think it's, I think everybody's still trying to find the perfect, kind of sweet spot of timing, but also, protecting student athletes, rights and ability to transfer if they choose to, but also, we think about the students that are leaving and the players that have left, but the timing also throws the players that are choosing not to leave or the ones that are trying to finish off their semester academically or, bowl season coming up. I just think the timing is really tough all the way around, to be honest, when we talk about student athlete welfare and, everything else that we're trying to balance. I do think the window is at a really tough time of year for people.
Jason Puckett. Go ahead, Jason.
And was there ever a discussion with Jake during the season about a contract extension from you and the Board of Regents? And if there was not, why not?
No, Jake and I definitely talked about that. Both Jake and I directly, Jake and his sports supervisor, and then also myself and his representation. So absolutely. We talked about his contract kind of on an ongoing basis about different things, that were important to him going forward. Talking about potential, what an extension would look like, what was the right timing, to execute that. So absolutely, he was, again, very aware, as was his, representation about what Washington State's intentions would be. But I would put that to myself. The board, neither the board nor the president would have been involved in that at that point, but certainly myself and his sports supervisor were.
Andrew Quinn. Go ahead, Andrew.
And I guess on a happier note, could you kind of go into the thinking behind naming Pete Caligas the interim head coach and what you're expecting to see from him over this next week as you guys head down to San Diego and try and get ready for this bowl game now?
Yeah. Oh my gosh. Yeah. Coach Caligas is just an amazing human being who is, all heart, an amazing soul, just no drama, well respected, just even to watch him and how he interacts with the team, the respect that the team members have for him. And I want to be clear, we have a lot of really tremendous people and coaches that are still on the staff. But the reason that, Pete Caligas really immediately stepped to my mind, and to be honest, anybody around the football program's mind, is that he has the respect. He is, has such a servant mindset relative to doing whatever is needed to help the program and to really, give the players the 10 days before the bowl that they deserve, and really focusing on that. And, just his background and his level-headedness, and, just a really good guy, that the players respect, that I respect, and as I told him, I just feel like, he's someone that immediately comes to my mind as someone that just, will do it for the right reasons, with good intentions, and be there for the team. And that was, completely evident in the, I would say, in the interactions I've seen so far, even with the team. He's here to help and do whatever he can for as long as we need him to.
Next question, Sam Taylor. Go ahead, Sam.
And we've seen David Riley start the year strong with men's basketball. Cami Etheridge win her 100th game. Does Jake Dickert's departure inform how you might approach or prioritize retaining coaches in the future?
I don't think so. I think we have to focus on what we can control and make sure that coaches know, back to the earlier question of, if Coach Dickert knew about our intentions relative to his future contract status and those sorts of things. I think, being open with your communication, with your expectations, and I'm a pretty relationship-based person with our coaches. I'm there to support them when they need me. I'm happy to stay out of their way when they don't. And just allowing them to have the information. I think that's the most unfortunate piece, is if people leave because they don't have the information they feel like they need relative to making an informed decision. And so I don't know that it really does, to be honest, because I think that each situation's so unique, and you've got to focus on controlling what you can and kind of being who you are. And, at the end of the day, people make decisions based on what they feel like is best for them.
As a reminder, if you have a question, please raise your hand. We'll call on you. Jason Puckett. Go ahead, Jason.
And I just want to follow up on the contract extension talk that you had with Jake and his representation. Why did it not go any further? What was the outcome? What was his reaction to those contract extension talks? And then do you have assurances from the Board of Regents that you can make an attractive and competitive offer to the next football coach at Washington State?
Oh, okay. I'm trying to think of how best to characterize, or answer all of that succinctly. So first of all, I would say, as I mentioned earlier, we continue to be in ongoing, discussions with the Board of Regents and helping, I guess, I'll allow them to know the ways they can best support us going forward. I have no qualms about having the support from the board relative to, making an offer to another, the next head football coach, and what we think is, a fair and competitive offer. While we do have appointing authority in athletics, certainly the salary level would be such that, the Board of Regents would definitely weigh in and approve. And, we have the utmost confidence in each other, I would say. And so I have no concerns there. So I'll answer that part first. And then the first part, it's an interesting dynamic on the contract extensions, because I think, the spirit of what, we were looking at was known and appreciated. The interesting timing of how our season evolved relative to, having a string of losses at the end. I think that at that point, not Washington State, but that I think, Jake felt like he wanted to get through the season and, kind of see where things were at, and, really looking at, what he felt was appropriate to look at and to sign. And so I don't know how to describe that without making it sound, more or less like a thing, because it really wasn't. I mean, we had talking about a long-term, partnership relative to contract length. And I think both he and his representation felt good about it. But I think the ultimate piece is that wasn't going to be a factor whether he chose to stay or go, because he knew, what the offer was. And, to be honest, maybe getting through the season too, to know how he felt about, whether he would be staying or not. I don't know. Some of that requires, probably some insight that Jake would be the best one to give. But, we had provided a succinct offer, and, talked about concept and terms, and there was no, concerns or pushback. I think the the partnership was felt.
Jamie Vinnick, go ahead, Jamie.
And is Wazoo moving towards revenue sharing next year in the wake of the most recent House settlement? And could that have been a factor in Jake's decision?
Again, I mean, that would be something you would have to ask him. I mean, it certainly is, a factor as we look at, our budget and really prioritizing, where our resources are going. But I would say we've, been looking at, scholarship pools, so to speak, so that each coach can decide whether, revenue sharing or NIL is important, whether Alston's important, whether it's more full scholarships or partial scholarships or whatever it might be. And I would say that football felt really good about where they were at and, the resources they had to work with. But I think we're like a lot of other schools still sorting out, where our place is in all of that and how that looks. So, I think there will be, certainly we will be in the market of doing financial, considerations that are beyond just what a typical scholarship has been in the past, but it could be. But you would have to ask him.
All right, Sam Taylor, another one. Go ahead, Sam.
And I'm curious, what have your conversations been like with current players, former players, current staff members, just any conversations you've had today in the wake of the news, and what are their reactions, and how are you intending to involve them in the future of the football program?
Yeah, boy, with all the different pieces, I mean, I would say, again, all of the reach outs have been extremely positive. The interesting thing is where I know a lot of the focus is about Jake Dickert leaving, but really almost all of the feedback has been about the future and the present day, of Washington State football. And it's interesting how, again, it's not for a lack of appreciation for what's been done, but, people move on pretty quickly relative to focusing on the task at hand. And so I would say the current players, that are here and we've met with them as an entire group. I've had some individually come in the office, and we'll meet with the leadership council later today after they've had a chance to kind of talk as a team. But they are extremely motivated for this bowl game and extremely motivated for their teammates. And that's not to say others won't be in the portal or that others won't, look to transfer or look to stay after the bowl game. But I've really been impressed at how they've been trying to compartmentalize what they view as the job at hand, which is finishing off this season strong. And so really impressed and appreciative. And, there've been a lot of like, we've got this, don't worry, we're good, et cetera, et cetera. And much more I would share. I'd be afraid I'd, let the cat out of the bag competitively relative to our opponent, but they're fired up. They're ready to go. Former players, same thing, that this is an amazing place. I know that you guys will get a great coach coming in. So very optimistic, very, task at hand. What can we do to help? But it's been extremely positive. And again, former coaches, both head and assistant reaching out to offer up help or, thoughts or whatever it might be, former players. It's been really terrific, honestly. And again, as much as, the question earlier about, kind of the, that it'd be easy to get sucked into feeling like, oh, the despair. Again, it's the reaction has been completely the opposite with people closest to the program. And so I feel that like the people that, maybe are just, a half a step removed and they be feeling like, they are frustrated or they are disappointed. I just want you to know, like the people that are in the program or the people that have gone through the program are excited for the future.
Okay, we have time for one or two more. If you have a question, please raise your hand and we'll call on you. Seeing none, I think Sam Taylor. Go ahead, Sam.
Thanks, Bill. So Anne, one more, just in this moment, obviously there's a lot of chaos, a lot of things happening, a lot of responsibilities that you have. Who are you talking to? Who are you depending on? And is there anyone you can, or anything you can depend on to guide you through this? And basically, what has your support system been like and your vision for the future, and who's helped inform that?
Yeah, I mean, to me, it's kind of like things always are in life. I think the people that provide you the best support are people that have nothing to gain, and are there just to really provide great insight and input or be a sounding board. And so, again, the beauty of having been at Washington State as long as I have is that, so many people that have gone through this program in the football program and want nothing but the best for the future, or professional colleagues, or, we have a tremendous administrative team here, but we have a tremendous support system in football, whether it be the coaches or whether it be the support staff that work, around the program every day. And to be honest, the players. I mean, I think it's important to really take in all the perspectives, that I can't have, not sitting in the players' shoes about, kind of the good, the bad, and the ugly of where they think things are at right now with the current day of, college football. But then people that know Washington State, and I'm a firm believer that it's, at the end of the day, there's many people's input that's important, but at the end of the day, it's input, that you have to be able to sort through and then make a good decision based on the input you have. And so there are a lot of people, to be honest, and everybody's input I value only because if they take the time to reach out, they care. And I think that that's important right now. I think it's important to remember that we have a lot of people that care about Washington State and want nothing but the best for us.
All right, final question, Jamie Vinnick. Go ahead, Jamie.
And do you have a kind of a salary range you'll be planning for the next head coach?
I'd be happy to provide that once we nail that down. We're still reviewing that and looking at that. And it's partially, if it were just the head coach salary, it'd be one thing, but really evaluating where we want to be at with our entire salary pool relative, quite frankly, to some of the other questions that were asked relative to where our resources will go. So happy to provide that once we've had a chance, to nail that down a little more. So right now, I don't feel like I have a good enough answer because, at this point, there's so many more pieces that'll go into it than ever typically would.